So you want to build a really powerful automated system that handles all your leads without you lifting a finger? Well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to walk through the architectural guide for building that exact engine, and we're going to do it with n8n.
I wanted to start with this quote because, man, it just hits the nail on the head. If you have people on your team manually copying and pasting data from one app to another, you haven't really built a system. What you've got is a very slow, very expensive, and kind of error-prone human API.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to really define that human API problem. Then, I'll introduce you to the tool that's going to solve it for us. We'll cover the 4 core concepts you have to master, and then the fun part. We'll build our lead engine step by step. And finally, we'll talk about making that mental shift from just clicking around to actually engineering solutions.
So what does this problem actually look like in the real world? Well, picture this. A new lead signs up on your website. Awesome. But now, that data, their name, their email, it has to get into your CRM. The human API is the person whose job it is to literally copy that info from one screen and paste it into another. It's not just slow, it's a massive bottleneck that chokes your company's growth.
So the real solution here is to build a central orchestration layer. Think of it as a true backend that wires all your tools together. You've got all these different things coming into your business, right? Data from apps, revenue events, support tickets, it all needs to flow into one central engine. And that's exactly where n8n comes in. It becomes the core of your company's own internal automation operating system, taking all that chaos and turning it into clean, coordinated action.
All right, so what is n8n? At its core, it's a super powerful workflow automation tool. It gives you this amazing visual canvas where you can just connect all your different apps and APIs. Now, here's the key difference. Unlike those simpler tools that kind of lock you into their way of doing things and then charge you for every little task, n8n gives you the power and flexibility of code, but without the crazy high costs when you start to scale up.
Okay, before we can build anything cool, we gotta speak the same language. There are 4 core concepts in n8n that are basically the essential building blocks for everything we're about to do. So let's break them down, one by one.
First up, you have the workflow. The best way to think about this is as the architectural blueprint for your entire automation. It's like a visual map that shows you exactly how data gets into your system, what happens to it along the way, and where it ends up.
Now that blueprint is made up of things called nodes. Each node is like a little functional building block that does one specific job. Maybe it sends an email, or adds a row to a Google Sheet, or makes a decision. They're kind of like individual Lego bricks that you can drag and drop onto your canvas to build something amazing.
And these nodes really break down into 3 main types. First, you've got your app nodes. Think of these as the connectors. Their whole job is to talk to your other tools, like HubSpot, Salesforce, or Jira. Then you have the logic nodes. These are the brains of the operation. They control the flow of data using things like if conditions or switches. And last but definitely not least, you have the really powerful code nodes. These are your transformers, letting you write custom JavaScript or Python to handle pretty much any complex task you can think of.
Of course, none of this does anything until something kicks it all off, and that initial event is called the trigger. It's the spark that ignites the entire workflow. It's the thing that wakes the system up and says, hey, here's some data, let's get to work.
Now, for a SaaS lead engine like the one we're building, the absolute gold standard is the webhook trigger. What this node does is it generates a unique URL for you. You just tell your website's sign-up form, hey, send your data to this URL. And the moment a user hits submit, boom, your workflow fires instantly. No waiting around, no checking every 5 minutes. We're talking real-time action.
And the final piece of the puzzle, and this one is absolutely critical for security and for being able to scale, is credentials. See, instead of pasting your secret API keys and passwords right into your workflows, which you should never do, you store them one time in n8n's secure, centralized vault.
So, why is this such a big deal? Well, let's say an API key gets compromised or just needs to be updated. You just change it in one single place, the vault, and every single workflow that uses it is instantly fixed. It's amazing. Plus, you can collaborate with your team or with freelancers, giving them the ability to build powerful workflows without ever showing them the raw secret API keys.
All right, we have our vocabulary, we have our building blocks. Now, let's put on our automation architect hat and actually design this thing. We're going to build a fully automated SaaS lead engine, and we're going to do it step by step.
So here it is, the high-level architecture. It's a simple 4-step process. First, we're going to trigger the workflow to capture the lead the second it comes in. Second, we'll enrich that lead with more useful data. Third, we'll score the lead to decide how important it is. And finally, fourth, we execute the right actions based on that score.
Okay, step 1, the trigger. Just like we talked about, we have a webhook node that's just sitting there, listening. The very instant a user fills out a form on your website, their data gets sent as a little JSON package to our workflow, and that kicks off the whole process in real time.
Step 2, enrichment. You see, just an email address, it's not really enough to go on. So we use an app node to take that email and shoot it over to a data enrichment service, something like Apollo.io. It then sends us back all this incredibly valuable business context, like the lead's company size, their industry, even the technology their company uses.
And this brings us to the most important business decision we have to make, scoring. Now that we have all this rich data, we can finally ask the million-dollar question. Is this a big company that our sales team needs to call right away? Or is this a smaller, self-serve user who should just go into an automated onboarding flow?
And here is how we make that decision completely automatically. We use a logic node, a switch node to be specific. It just looks at the company size data we got back. If the company has more than 50 employees, it sends the lead down path A. If it's less, it sends them down path B. It's literally our automated traffic cop, directing every lead exactly where it needs to go.
And finally, step 4, execution. Those two different paths trigger completely different actions. Path A, for our big enterprise leads, uses an app node to send an instant alert to the sales team in Slack. Path B, for our self-serve users, uses another app node to add them to an automated welcome email sequence in MailChimp. Two different types of leads, two perfectly tailored outcomes, all happening in milliseconds.
And let's not forget about security. Every single one of those API calls we just made, to the enrichment tool, to Slack, to our email provider, is being authenticated safely and securely through that central credentials vault we set up. No secret keys are floating around, everything is locked down.
So let's just take a step back for a second. In the last few minutes, we haven't just automated a simple task. We have architected and designed a complete 24/7 revenue engine that automatically qualifies and routes your company's most valuable asset, your new leads.
And the advantages here are just massive. This system never takes a coffee break, it never goes on vacation, it totally removes the chance for human copy and paste errors, it brings your speed to lead time down to practically zero, and because we're using a tool like n8n, it can scale to handle millions of leads a month without your costs going through the roof.
And that right there is really the big takeaway. The goal isn't just to automate a few clicks here and there. It's about fundamentally changing your mindset. It's about starting to engineer robust, scalable systems for your business.